My Govan and Melonine, and well met indeed. I'm Arak here, Galadirth, and head of the morning team behind Divide and Conquer. Welcome back to Divide and Conquer, Middle-earth Total War, as we continue on as Dol Amroth. And before you ask, I have had to say this about a million times, and I appreciate I still made the error. I am not faultless, but Admiral Pellender does still have those 4 units. They did not die. The ship didn't sink, which lots of people seem to be confused about, or at least is a misconception amongst the community. If your fleet loses, it does not automatically mean that the ships will die, and they quite frequently, as they have done here, sail far, 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 far away. So what we are going to do, yes, is absolutely have to try and remember when I click end turn in a moment that Admiral Pellender has a large army. And we need to land that and use it, because at the minute it's just draining our funds and it's not being put to good use. And it will take that army up to one that's actually worthwhile. Now, of course, the army there is going to head south and take Gobel Mirland, ideally, so Pellender could just assist there. We shall have to wait and see. But unfortunately, yes, we have been bested by Admiral Sacklethorpe. The Ardenheim Navy is already beating us around the bay, which is disappointing. But otherwise, though, we're doing all right, aren't we? Imrahil and Istion are heading over there to try and take Halthanur, which rests just there on the northern side of the Poros River. Terathoros has been claimed. We don't really make any money from it, and indeed our upkeep is almost more than the wealth coming in from the castle itself, but having it in our hands isn't the end of the world. But we are, of course, losing money. The main problem at the moment.
Yes.
We're sending our diplomat off, and we're going to go and sell map information and ideally get some trade rights with nations to the north who we do not currently have any relations with. The feedback on the first episode of this video was rather entertaining to read, for the most part. There were 1 or 2 people who were rather disappointed with the changes made to Dol Amroth, and particularly some people suggesting that Dol Amroth is now far, far, far too easy, and it just makes me roll my eyes. I mean, I shan't deal with that here in the video. But that was the only real feedback we saw. Oh, wow, Candish rebels with a Gondorian general, and they're all horsemen. Now, how much does it think it's in our favour? 1-1. That's fascinating, isn't it? I don't know what to do about that, actually, because I'm not sure that we would win that. We are a fantastic unit, but they really, really outnumber us. What happens if we auto-resolve? Oh, yes! The AI loves us. The Independent Realms come for Baradhan as well. So, unfortunately, Pellender's force will... Well, rather fortunately, actually. Pellender's force will arrive just as Prince Adriel needs some buffing. As Wolferson has suggested there in the comments, if those of you who have read through each and every comment, some of you probably do, we are going to need to try and... I think the one thing that we can do better this time, the one thing we must focus on, and this is Wolferson's point, and I agree, I am voicing his point, this is not something I came up with on my own, is that we need to make our battles count more. We need to play a little less lackadaisical, if we can, a little less... laissez-faire, if you will, and actually try and do what we can to keep our troops alive, because we are against 3 enemies that get a lot of forces and our units are expensive. We're better than all 3 of them one-on-one, but 3 versus 1, we need to make our battles mean something a bit more. And that's what we're going to have to do here today as well. So Thorondir is coming in with absolute garbage units. Unfortunately, we don't have any cavalry, which would mop up those bandits like there's nobody's business. But we have got 3 Nimrodel archer units. And Adriel, of course, is an absolute monster in battle as well. And that's what we're going to have to rely on here to ensure we don't take too many losses. We are going to be surrounded. The enemy coming from the town will be coming in behind us, and the main enemy coming in at the front. But if we can get our archers to blitz down the Horondor mercs, Adriel will be able to deal with the bandits no trouble. So that's going to be the plan. Let's turn the AI on. No, the UI. Right, so all 4 of you, you're going to, as I say, be used to bring down the units.
Knights! Militia! Archers ready! Mariners awaiting your command.
The reason I'm double-clicking on them all is because I'd completely forgotten that Special Sunday had actually re-recorded the Dol Amroth voices because he got a better microphone setup, if my memory serves. That's the reason why he re-recorded them. That's what my memory had forgotten. And so I'm just clicking on them because the voice lines have been improved slightly.
Archers of the fleet. Archers of the fleet.
They are, however, quiet. The reason they're quiet, though, is because I've got the voice volume turned right down. Because if I have the voice volume high, then on the campaign map, when you click on enemies, and when that guy says that, then the enemy have brought up more men, it is deafening. So that's why the volume on the voices is down. And no, actually, that's a lie. The voices in battle are effects, not voices. So when they're saying lines, however loud, I can just show you, because this is a little teaching moment, isn't it? The special effects dictates how loud or quiet they are when they speak, and not the voice or speech line, as it's called, which is bizarre, isn't it? But that's how the game actually handles it. Right, so they're firing away, but then the Hirondell Mercs have come into view. That's what we want to be killed. And I tell you what, actually, with some flanking, we should be able to really smash these bandits like nobody's business. Oh, they're running right through, aren't they? Yeah, that's annoying. Alright, speed it up a bit. So Adrian's charging in. They're going to go and help. They're going to go and help. You can keep firing at them, get the Archmissioner down the hill, and keep targeting those mercs. They're shaken. They're wavering. They do not like being attacked. Which is interesting, isn't it? Why are you coming up against us if you can't even take it? But this is Gondor Militia's job, really, to deal with bandits. There we are. They're routing. The Hirondell Mercs over there have been about halved in...
the enemy are badly bloodied. They have lost half their men.
In terms of numbers that made it out alive. They're routing. Right, all of them are routing, so ceasefire. You've done your jobs. I'm not bothered about routing units. Let's turn you over here. And get you into positions, get you ready. Those Hirondell Mercs. Now, in Medieval 2, unlike Warhammer, when a unit breaks, generally speaking, that's it, gone. You do not have to worry about it. And if it does come back, it will normally break almost straight away. Unlike Warhammer, which really used to drive me up the wall when I played my Eltharion campaign. You rout the enemy unit, and it will get to maybe those trees over there, and then it will suddenly feel like it's got the strength and determination to come back and kill you. It'll turn around and come back and fight, and it won't then just break immediately. It will then actually fight again. And you just think, no, hang on a minute. You broke and fled out of fear. You ran about 10 meters away and decided that actually you have got what it takes, and you've come back. It just doesn't make sense. If you're buggering off, bugger off. And put us all out of the misery of having to chase you down. And it often led to situations whereby you'd lose more troops than necessary because the enemy suddenly found the desire to come back and fight again. Like they're doing right now, actually. But as I say, these units, this is a perfect example, these bandit units have decided they are going to fight again. So we can turn around and target them, and you'll see that they will just melt away. Oh, that they have Haradrim archers. Quick, target them, target them, target them, target them, target them. Bring them down. I'm not worried about the bandits. The sellswords will be a problem. But if all four of you can target those Haradrim archers, then we can kill them off before they start raining fire down on us. We need to get these guys over as well, because these get a charge in. There's no defensive bonuses in... Well, there are defensive bonuses. Obviously, every unit has a defense skill, but that doesn't only apply when your unit is standing still. That applies in melee battle all the time. Oh, they did the little jumps. In Medieval 2, generally speaking, no matter what unit type you have, it is better to run at your enemy so that you get your charge bonus. There are no bonuses to being defensive, which is something that later games did bring in and makes sense. A unit bracing will negate some of that charge, but in Medieval 2, it's just not a thing. Always charge your units in. And then you always get that charge bonus. Those bandits have fought on, and we've lost a couple more. Right. We're going to have to refocus. If you can, take on the sellswords. Although, no, you're way too close. You're not going to get a shot off, are you? No. They'll be going for one of them. They won't be going for all of them. So, if we can work out which one they're particularly keen in targeting. No, it looks like they're going for the archer militia, actually. The Amrothian archers. Which is fantastic if they are, because look at that close range volley onto the sellswords. Fantastic. That's the biggest threat today. Bandits, no trouble. No threat, no fear. Adrian's going to target them and bring them down, right? Right, go for the Southron Warband now. The enemy archers haven't really given us any grief. Oh, Amrothian archers melt away, and from their position come Dol Amroth's finest, the Dallin Knights. Oh, a solid thud. I've seen more sellswords go down in that than I did Talons. Right, Amrothian archers. Target that Southron warband. Try and run away. I've left that a bit too late. I don't fear using the Iron Fist now because it only does good things. Now, as I said at the beginning, we need to make our battles count more. We need to pay more attention. We need to do better. That is well within me. I just, generally speaking, don't like to play that way because I mostly, for the most part, I just can't be bothered. It requires too much attention. I enjoy playing these as a way of relaxing as much as I do showing you all the features of the game. But it is something we will have to at least put a bit of time into. But I've left those two too late. Now, you guys can fight that warband. That's all right. Adrian has absolutely melted those sellswords, hasn't he? That's amazing. The enemy archers really have given us no grief. Nimrodel Mariners aren't very good against enemy arrows because their 16 defense is cut down to only 8, which is not ideal, as I'm sure you can imagine. Right, you guys going on those, and you'll never get them, but... No, actually, yeah, because you will never get them, and we can send melee in on those. Turn back and target those archers. Adrian will deal with those. Those Mariners over there will be able to hold the line. Mariners, again, they're looking at their stats. They're relatively good melee units, actually. They are quite a good all-rounder. An 8 melee attack with a 16 defense in melee is quite good. They're arguably better swordmen than they are archers, to be honest. Because their defense doubles when they become melee units. Whereas, of course, when they're in an archer duel, as they are at the moment, they are only getting half of their defense. Now, what absolutely will not be able to happen, though, is we won't be able to catch those archers because they'll run away. Now, I think we can go to time 6 now because this is rapidly closing in on a victory. So, archer units. Yeah, we've got Haradrim archers running away. So let's pull our archer units into a line, going nice and wide, and come and stand over here. Oh, we can just end it. We don't have any cavalry, we can't chase them down. 120 men died and we killed thousands. 273 Talon Knights. Nimrodel Mariners coming close second with only 20 kills behind. That's fantastic. That's obviously the one that stayed firing their arrows. Baragund himself only got 206, which isn't as good. But a solid victory. And Barad falls without too many losses. And of course, as I say, we have 4 units waiting in ships to join the army. And I did absolutely forget about them. And I was lucky that they didn't die. But I stress again, they didn't die. So that mistake is at least alleviated slightly. If still, I do have propensity to make those mistakes, as I'm sure many of you are aware, long-standing fans. You know, my channel, actually, just ruminating on the channel at the moment, has actually done relatively well, considering that most YouTube channels rise and fall within a 5-year period. And here we are, I think 7 years later, and my channel gets more views now than it has ever done. Like, we're only getting stronger and stronger. And I think that entirely comes down to niche. Basically, I found my niche many years ago. I've stuck with it, and it has proven successful.
Mariners of the fleet!
Yes, we saved them, everyone. We saved them, and we got a unit of coastal wardens, an absolute garbage trash unit. We've got Haven Guard available, and you gave me bloody coastal wardens.
Mariners of the fleet!
Do me a favour, council. Right, Pelander, you can't do out, so go and sit in Gobeltopolis, which can't actually do anything either. No, let's send you. By Melder, you go to Etheland, because you can retrain in either of these places in version 5. I mean, we won't be able to, we have no money, but we do make a little bit now. Right, so, Amandir, I don't actually think... Oh, yes, we were going to take Misvan out of Lynn here, weren't we? As many people have questioned, why does Baragund have the archers when Mistvan looks like a Nimrodel Mariner? And the answer is because that Baragund and Mads Mikkelsen was the archer general for Dol Amroth for absolutely ages. And then at some point, I don't know who or why, one of the team members changed it so that Mistvan became the archer general. But unfortunately, this is just one of those biases where I'm being a tyrant, basically. This is, and always will be, the quote-unquote Ranger General for Dol Amroth, for me, personally. And it seems so bizarre having him as the knightly warrior. So what I should have done is change Mistven's portrait and made him a knight-looking general instead of a ranger, because, of course, now he has knightly units. And that's my bad. Why can't you build... Oh, we don't have any money, do we? Of course. Right, well, let's not rest on our laurels. Let's leave behind the 100 militia and head straight out, because we don't make any money there anyway. It doesn't like us. We can't do out. We don't, as I say, don't make any money. Amandir, though, you are going to go with Adrian, because we could be... It's useful having at least one cavalry. And we are Dol Amroth. Cavalry is our everything. What does Haldaner have? Oh, there's some sellswords, but I don't think that'll give us trouble. The bandits and the archers absolutely won't. The Southron Warband, if we charge into them when we aren't really prepared, they could give us some grief. But otherwise, I don't think there's much to fear in that army. Even if we just take the town, destroy all the buildings, and run away, it still at least gives us some bonus.
Continue tomorrow.
I am really hoping Cand doesn't side with the Blue Wizards, because if Cand does side with the Blue Wizards, the Dol Amroth campaign is, generally speaking, a bit of a doddle anyway. So we're desperate for that not to happen. How much do we lose at the minute? About 200. But we're going to lose more once we've taken Meal on. Oh, is it in Ardenheim City already? Oh, bugger! They're already here. Damn. Damn. Well, let's try and head in and just try and sneak that town quickly before they meet us. Because then we can get some real sight range on that large plateau. Because the hill there blocks our sight. It always has done. It always will. It's very annoying. And for now, though, I think we can end the turn. I'd really like to move Mistven into a fort, because he's not doing us any favours being in a town. How much does the city make without him? Oh, he makes 300 gold coins. So he actually almost pays for himself by being in the town. But he'd pay for himself if he were in a fort as well. It's, which way makes more money is the question, isn't it? But let's just end the turn. I'm just faffing around. I'm so anxious to do better than I did before. Now, we are at war with the Ardenheim, so they will almost certainly come through. There is absolutely merit in taking down one of the enemies quickly, be it Canterad or Ardenheim. Choose your foe and try and drop them down. Trying to split your force 3 ways is unlikely to give you much joy. Oh, look, we might be able to get some money out of Cand. They're bankrupt, though. Oh, yes. Now, that's very interesting. They've gone for trade rights. Now, of course, as I say, we don't start at war with Cand. That's how they've been able to do that. But I didn't think they'd be that favourable. I didn't think they'd actually want to go for trade rights. So we're lucky there. Captain Falven. Same as in Mai, so it's actually Falven. You come at us. We've already seen your army. We're going to absolutely smash you. Although Istian only has 9 men, so we've got to watch out for him. We don't really want to get him killed. Basically, in order to win as Dol Amroth, you just have to try. That's about it, really. Last time, I was my usual self and was blasé with my placement, my fighting, my everything, basically.
We must act and halt this turn of events.
But by just applying a modicum of effort, you should find that Dol Amroth is a far easier campaign. Now, I'm still not denying that for the vast majority of people, Dol Amroth is now quite possibly the hardest campaign in the game. Now, for the elite people, like Zeno, for example, Dol Amroth is not hard, but none of the factions are hard for players who've been playing this game for a long time. And if I may, I said I wasn't going to speak about it, but I will. If I may just say, Medieval 2 came out 13/14 years ago. People are well aware how to play this game now, and it is, and never has been, one of the hardest Total War games. The hardest thing about the base Medieval 2 game was the Mongol invasion, and the only reason that was hard is because it script-spawned armies out of nowhere and dropped them on your eastern border. So if you weren't ready for it, you would fall to it. However, if you were ready for it, which many players were, even that wasn't hard. Medieval 2 is just not a hard game. We cannot make it any harder, and the chief reason it is not a hard game is because the CAI, the campaign AI, has and always will be trash. Unfortunately, the AI has never really been very good in Medieval 2, and there's very little that we can do about that. But that leads me rather perfectly on to today's sponsor. No, I jest. It's just how channels normally do it, isn't it? That leads me on to Piotr's campaign AI overhaul, which we are going to test in the coming days. Hummingbird and I have spoken, and there's some drawbacks that we've seen, but there's many positives as well. Now, many people will not know at all what I'm talking about, but if you follow the Discord, it was suggested a while ago, and a gentleman named Piotr has created a campaign AI that a couple of our beta testers have already been using and have said has given fantastic results, in that the AI now makes smarter decisions. And by smarter, what I mean is the AI actually does group its units together and defends its own settlements. It won't push out to try and kill you at all costs, and in doing so completely abandon its own settlements, leaving like 1 or 2 units in defense. It seems from early reports that the AI will actually leave troops behind to defend its towns, and when it does finally reach out to try and attack you, it does so with a well thought out army, or at least it groups all of its smaller armies together. So we're going to give that one a go, but Dol Amroth was hard in a cheesy and horrible grind way, which I just don't think is enjoyable. Once you've fought, it's like fighting Mordor in the late game. It's hard in inverted commas, purely because Mordor sends 2,000 units at you every single turn. And after the 9th turn of fighting off 1 or 2 full banner armies per turn, it just gets boring. It isn't hard, it's a grind. It's the same thing at the moment, an odd example, I grant you, but at the moment I'm playing Civilization 6, and I'm an achievement whore, so I'm going for the achievement of playing as England and getting a city on every continent in a huge map, or on a huge map. I've also coupled that with going for a domination victory and foolishly chose 12 enemies. And so I'm now at the point where there are only 4 enemies left. I own 3/4 of the world. I've faced no real resistance at any point. The armies that the enemy has are still relatively large, but it is no longer hard, it's just a boring grind. I know I'm going to win, I just have to get through the grind, and that's what Dol Amroth was, which I would submit is not difficulty, that is boredom. And yes, we've made Dol Amroth slightly easier for the majority of players because, as with all things in life, it is the majority we cater to. Yes, many of you hardcore players will want extreme difficulty, and Orklover, one of our beta testers, always acts as the kind of voice of the elites, if you will, because he's always suggesting things that I think the average player would find really annoying and wouldn't be able to cope with very well. And it is, unfortunately, the average player we do cater to. And the reason we cater to the average player, I'm afraid, is because they make up the majority of the player base. It's the same reason when you see hardcore fans of games moaning that the game developers have made their game more casual. And it's, of course, they're going to do that. The casual people are the ones that drop the money in the game. If you are a hardcore fan of a game, and you want them to cater to hardcore fans, you need to make sure that the hardcore fans are the majority of people who are putting the money in. And unfortunately, it is just not the case. The casuals are the ones who are going to do the microtransactions and who are going to pay to make their game easier. And unfortunately, that is just the way it is. Games that cater exclusively to those hardcore players, generally speaking, do not get sequels because they don't make enough money. And I appreciate that's something to be very disappointed at. You're welcome to find that very annoying, but it's something you must come to terms with. And so that is what we do. And by working out the majority, most of the comments we have seen about Dol Amroth on Discord, Total War Center, ModDB, and YouTube all express how the campaign is difficult. Very difficult. We only get, for every 10 comments, I would say, that I have seen that has said Dol Amroth is a really hard campaign, I have maybe seen 2 that say, oh, Dol Amroth is a doddle, you just need to do this. Which is a absolutely tiny minority. And unfortunately, with modding, or not unfortunately, but for the minority, those that want the game to be harder, your only real outlet is to mod the game yourself. Now, that sounds like a rather obnoxious thing for me to say, but do remember that we don't take your money. And so I'm quite within my remit to say that. Were we game developers and you actually paid money to play our game, then by all rights, me saying to you just learn how to change it yourself would be absolutely out of order. But because I've done this in my free time as a hobby, as has Hummingbird, RK and the Elite Dwarf, and we haven't charged any of you to play this mod, you are well entitled to moan about it, but you ideally should just learn how to edit it yourself. And we'll take on your points, and you'll be one of the two that says, oh, this campaign's too easy. But my response to you, I'm afraid, would be just learn to mod it yourself. And I don't feel any guilt or remorse or otherwise in saying that, because you didn't pay to play this mod. So I feel like your comments can therefore be taken with a pinch of salt by ourselves. And there we are, that's my little rant over. Dol Amroth has been made easier because it caters to the masses, and I apologise to those who found it already easy that you think the mod is getting easier, but that's just the way it is. Now, while I've been talking, actually, we've done rather well, haven't we? We've slaughtered most of this army. Istion only lost 3 people. Imrahil only lost 10. We did have a bit of a squeaky bum moment at the beginning there when I charged into the Southron Warband unwittingly. But we've managed it. Oh, I've just clicked continue. I meant to click end. Oh, damn. Now we're going to have to slaughter them all. I mean, we will do anyway. I mean, execution is the only answer for these bandits. We're fighting for our very lives, and there are people out here who have decided to forsake their brothers in arms and stand on the side of chaos. 756 people were just killed by Imrahil's retinue. Absolutely fantastic. There was a comment that I did see about charge bonuses, and people suggesting again, why is Dol Amroth given such a great elite cavalry focus? That absolutely is not as it is in the book. And what I would say to you is, well, yes, Rohan is the absolute cavalry faction. But for knightly cavalry, those gleaming saviours of the world, Dol Amroth really is held as the highest in honour. Dol Amroth makes 2 key charges at the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, and in both charges they are made out to be this glorious golden charge of warriors that are nigh untouchable by the enemy. And that is essentially where we've based the entirety of Dol Amroth from. You have to remember that Divide and Conquer was made about 9 years ago. Its conception was thought up about 9 years ago by a team now who have not been seen by us as the modders for years. I couldn't even tell you the names of the first team members. And they came up with Divide and Conquer. And the point of Divide and Conquer is to expand on the nations within the game. And Dol Amroth was chosen as the most likely of the fiefs to stand alone. And we followed through with that. And indeed, I love Dol Amroth, so I'm never going to take them away. So therefore, we've got a faction that we've got to flesh out somehow and make them entertaining, and specifically make them different from Gondor. And so we look to the books for passages whereby we can define that roster. And that is just exactly what we did with Dol Amroth. So we look to the books, and the only thing you really learn about Dol Amroth from the books is that they, A, have a half-elven, half-Numenorian bloodline, so they're held out as tall, knightly lords. And indeed, as I said at the start of episode 1, when I was reading an excerpt from the book, they are said to be as tall as lords. So we've got one point that they're basically the knightly faction, and then the second thing we know about them is that Imrahil rides into Minas Tirith with a company of knights, and those same knights charge out of the Pelennor twice. And at both times, they are held in highest honour. And so with those two facets combined, we've made them into a knightly Gondor, basically. And so knightly cavalry is therefore their focus. This is never going to be a 100% lore-accurate mod, because a total war game, as I've said many times before, is inherently not lore-accurate. In the actual War of the Ring, Gondor, Rohan, Mordor fought, Erebor, the Woodland Realm, Dale, and the forces of Rune fought, and of course we know of Isengard. The Anduin Vale fought against some goblins, and most of Eriador, though, absolutely sod all happened. The Grey Company that accompanied Aragorn to the Battle of the Pelennor Fields had about 20 men in it, or 30 men, something like that. The Northern Dunedain absolutely should not be a faction. The High Elves shouldn't be a faction. Bree shouldn't be a faction. Like, nothing happened up here. You all know of the Scouring of the Shire, of course, but even then, a ragtag group of hobbits beat off basically just a couple of ruffians, as they're described, a few Dunlendings. It was never a full-scale invasion, and it didn't last very long either. So the whole concept of this mod is to throw the lore a little bit out of the window. So we've got to work within those bounds, and that is what we have done. So that is why Dol Amroth is held as a great charging faction, because of their great deeds at the Pelennor Fields. But turning back to the video, just before we wrap up, as we're closing in on the end, I am going to move out and try and capture Horondor proper. It's interesting that that's called Horondor, and that's Western Horondor, when it's actually south. That's poor naming convention, isn't it? Eastern Horondor's alright. I think that should be called Horondor proper or Central Horondor, and this one should be Southern. But maybe there is a southern over here, and I'm just discounting that. I don't know. I want to get some towers up ideally, but we just don't have any money. We don't have any money to do basically anything, and that is the reality we face.
It's an enemy.
We could try and kill those, though, if we grouped Pelander and Bymeldir together, because it would be good to finally get rid of Sacklethor. And I think our greatest chance is by standing these two together like that. We might be all right. We have got 2 Alcarondas. They've only got 1 of their top ship. Why does it always take so long to open up? The Dol Amroth is the second best ship in the game. Every nation has a boat and a ship. The boat is always the smaller one, the Ersul, and the ship is the bigger one. And the ship's always just better. But the Ardenaium's Dol Amroth, as we just saw, that was the name, wasn't it? Dol Amroth, yeah, and Belukazga. That's the second best ship in the game. The best ship in the game is the High Elven ship, which I can't remember the name of. Palaran, I think. They kept the Palaran name. But anyway, let's give it one more end turn and see if we can move in on Horondor before it gets taken by Harad. Now, arguably, we're stretching ourselves too thin, but Harad will probably take it if we don't, so they'll border us at Tirathoros, and it's better to have our border lower, because even if we hold it for only 3 or 4 turns, that's 3 or 4 turns more money than we would otherwise have received. So I think it's best to push on and take it. And also, if we can make some money when we do take it... Oh, that's a large garrison. Then we can put some towers in. That's what I want to do. But the Ardenaim are almost certainly coming through at Baradhan. I don't really plan on holding Baradhan. I don't think we'll be able to. But we could get the 2 Haven Guard units into that fort. I'll let you bugger off. He buggered off. This is going to cost us money, but I'm going to go for it.
As you wish.
So we'll move. We'll get you down into the fort, and then on the next turn, Pelander will take you across, or we'll chuck you in that fort. Because you're much better served on the front line than you are there. We also have that fort there, but that's not of great use to us, really. But otherwise, I think that is going to be where we end today's episode. So I apologise, it's taken on a bit of a rant to counter the qualms that others have with the mod. But I just wanted to say some things. There's been various comments that I feel I can reply to easier verbally than by typing out each time. But I do hope you've enjoyed episode number 2. I do hope you liked the thumbnail. I tried to differentiate it. And I have included these in the original playlist. I just felt like I should really continue that playlist. Because then if people found those videos and were watching those, they would know then that the campaign was restarted. Because I explained that at the start of last episode. But anyway, for now, and until we speak again, thank you very much for watching, if indeed you have. And until then, Navair Neden Perimad Melunin, and farewell.